Happy Sabbath, Christian friends. How are y'all doing today? It is pop-up time, okay? And I'm just popping up, popping on, and wanting to give a word. I do thank everyone who has taken the time out to review, and even after I post, for those who have popped on after the fact and just still have given a moment to just take a look into what it is that I have to talk about. Again, my pop-up Bible studies are basically for me to just share a word with you all. A lot of the times when I'm giving these words or giving this pop-up Bible study, it is because something, again, has kind of touched me to say, like, I want to talk about this because it's something that has actually been relatable to me in my life and what I've gone through in my seasons, in the different points in my life that I've experienced some things with life. And the Bible, again, which is one of the main sources that I do encourage that everyone need to learn, because again, the Bible, like I've stated before, the Bible is inspired by God, and the Bible teaches us what we're doing wrong, and it shows us or teaches us how to do right, and to show us to do what is right. And it helps us convict ourselves of, when we're doing wrong, so that way we can do right. So again, I always encourage, to learn from that Bible. A lot of times people try to say, in learning and wisdom, because everybody want to grow, and I get it. You definitely want to grow physically, mentally, spiritually. And to me, you definitely got to start with that source. Again, because it is inspired by God. And I like to talk about it. And the reason why I utilize the source whenever I'm giving my pop-ups is because I can truly say there are many things, countless things throughout this word that relates to my life and what has happened in my life. So that's why, again, the Bible is true to me, is pure to me. And I'm always asking God, whenever I'm praying to God, I'm like, Lord, show me what is pure, right, and true of you. Because again, the Bible can be a bit complex or complicated to understand, can be conflicting, and it can be where it's some things in there you just don't understand. So sometimes you get a bit discouraged in wanting to continue to learn and learn and know about your Creator. So only thing you can do in times like that is to talk to your Creator and say, Lord, as I am drawing near to you, Father God, I want you to show me what is pure, right, and true of you. Give me the wisdom and knowledge and understanding that you will allow me to have, so that I can understand and get to know more about you. You're my Creator. So as I draw near to you, God, show me what's pure, right, and true of you. So whenever I am doing these pop-ups, it is because I'm still learning and trying to encourage myself. So not only am I, just speaking a word because I want to put it out there, and being obedient to God is a word that's on my heart, and I want to share with others the things that I've been through in my journey of life, and how the Bible relates, just to show like the Bible is real. And so with that, I feel like because of that, I have to share, but I want to share my truths, and I want to speak only what's true and what's pure and what's right, so that people can understand and be able to have confidence and get encouraged about how important this source is. So again, this is a moment where I just take a time to say, you know what, let me pop up and pop on. So one point in time, I was just, I had it decided on when I wanted to do a Bible study. But now, because, sometimes the way my schedule works, I'm just like, you know what, whenever it's just time to go ahead and pop on, and I don't want to, say that I'm going to do it one time at one point in time, or have a designated time, and then I don't abide by that. So I figured, you know what, I'll just pop up. So when I pop up, that means it was in my spirit, and I needed to come on and say what I need to say. But anyway, I do want to thank everybody who has taken the time to join me, whether if it was live or if it was after the fact. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I only want to encourage. I'm only speaking to encourage and speaking my truths, and how my life relates to this Bible, and knowing that the source is, again, it is a good source. So I wanted to talk today about anger. Okay, it's a very serious topic, and a subject that some people may dismiss, because again, anger is an emotion that we all have experienced in our life. Anger is an emotion that is inevitable. It is going to happen. It's going to be something that happens in our life that will make us upset and angry. Okay, so that's definitely not something that we can elude. Okay, you can't escape anger, and it probably more than likely will happen to every single one of us at some point in our life. Okay, so I want to start there, but I want to talk about like the side of anger that we have to control or get some conquering as far as anger is concerned. Okay, because in our lives, when we go through these certain things, anger, because it is an emotion, sometimes people will allow their emotions to cause them to react in certain ways, and people can allow their emotions to dictate their reactions and their behaviors. And not because we may want to, because again, anger to me is an emotion that you can't control. You don't know what's going to happen that's going to cause you to end up getting angry. Okay, so because of that, again, when it does happen, because it is an emotion that we can't control, and it happens kind of out of our control, and we're not looking forward to getting angry. When it happens, sometimes some people may not know what is the best way to react when you're angry. Okay, and I've had times in my life, because this is a time for me to be transparent about anger. Okay, I was once a very, very angry individual inside. Very angry, very bitter, full of rage, full of hate, and just sadness. All of that. I had all of that stored up inside of my body and in my blood and in my veins. And I'm definitely not proud of it. But at the time when I was feeling those emotions and I was hoarding it in, and I will say that it was never intentional. It was never because that's something I'm proud of or something that I would want to have inside of me. Okay. But because at the time, whenever it caused me to be angry, when it was happening to me, I didn't know I didn't know how to release it or deal with it or conquer it. So in my situation, I allowed the anger to conquer me. I allowed the anger to have me, and it caused me to, and I'm the type of person that when I am angry, I let it build up inside of me. Okay, because at one point in time, whenever I was going through certain situations in my life that caused me to be angry or be enraged, instead of me confronting it, a lot of the times I always held it in. So whatever I might experience in my life, and I'm just even speaking to you all, just if anybody can relate to it, if you've ever experienced times in your life where you've been rejected, you've been hurt by somebody hurt you, somebody deceived you, somebody manipulated you, somebody did something to you that you know was wrong, somebody crossed you, somebody, I don't know, just from top to bottom, from the least to the greatest of whatever, your kids, on your job, somebody in your life, a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, just anybody or anything that can happen that can cause you to be angry, right? When it happened, and the way you reacted was just how you reacted. And like I said, for me, when I was going through a lot of those things, instead of me confronting it to release it and let it go so that I can move on, I was the type of person that when it did happen to me and I was angry about something, or if somebody hurt me and I always allowed it to stick, and I always allowed it to stay, and I was holding it in. So, the saying, holding grudges. I was the type of person that I held on to it instead of like releasing it and letting it out. So instead of confronting it, because I was always the type of person that I'm a visionary, right? I've always imagined things. I have an imagination out of this world ever since I was a kid. I've always imagined things. I've always imagined my future. I always envisioned things. So I guess I'm just assuming quite naturally when it came to situations like being angry and going through certain things that caused me to be angry or caused me to feel rejected or caused me to feel hurt or shame or guilt or just feeling in uncomfortable feeling, that quite natural thing for me to imagine things and envision things. That's how I dealt with it, by envisioning or imagining. I would literally, if I went through something, instead of confronting it, certain things I did confront. Like, for instance, there's been times I've had altercations with people, or had just conversations that led to more and more. So yeah, to me that was confronting it, because I said how I felt or whatever. But many of the times, instead of me confronting it to let it go and move on from it, I held on to it. And me being quite naturally a person that always imagined things, always was visualizing things and envisioning things, that's how I dealt with my anger and the things that I was holding on to. I played out scenarios in my mind. And so in my mind, I was coming up with conclusions. So I would, whatever I went through, whatever I experienced that might have made me angry, had me enraged, had me infuriated, or had me feeling like, you crossed me, you did me wrong, or whatever. And it was an uncomfortable feeling that I had to go through from that emotion. Instead of me confronting it to release it or forgive it and let it go, it had me, and instead of me letting it out, I would hold it in, but come up with my own ending on it. And that didn't do me no good, because what was happening is instead of me letting it out, it was all adding more fire to the flame, adding fuel to the flame. And basically it as you can imagine, like a kettle of tea, or a kettle of whatever is that you cooking on the stove, is going to come to a head. That steam is going to blow, and it's going to come out. And for me, after just years of not confronting the anger and the rejection issue, and the feeling inferior, and feeling like I wasn't enough, and just going through all of that depressing moments of feeling discouraged about life, and feeling like life just wasn't going the way that I wanted to go, relationships not going the way that I hoped it would go, just holding all of those emotions in, instead of releasing it and letting it go and moving on, and trusting in God, or praying to God, or seeking God and acknowledging God, and just coming to the Lord for all that I was going through, for Him to work in me. I tried to deal with it on my own by putting my own scenario and stories and spins on it, envisioning it, and doing it and handling it that way in my mind. And it didn't work for me, because at the end, it finally came to a head. Like, if you can imagine a pimple that finally comes to a head and it's time to pop, that's exactly what was happening to me over the course of years. And when it came out, for me, it came out in the form of dealing with anxiety. And just anxiety turned into depression. So I was already dealing with a lot, as far as just, I was already a very sensitive individual. So when anything that happened in my life, any situations that happened that might have hurt my feelings, or made me feel some kind of way, I would hold on to it instead of trying to let it go. And it all just finally came to a head, and I blew. And when it finally came out, it came out in the form of anxiety, and I dealt with immense fear. I dealt with immense, it was very debilitating mentally. So I experienced a lot of mental anguish going through what I went through, of allowing those seasons in my life of the anger to control me. So I wanted to kind of just share that with y'all, because again, sometimes of course, we don't intentionally want to have to be angry about something. But when it happens, everybody don't know how to deal with anger, or everybody don't know how to release it. And so if I had to encourage you, I would definitely say if you got to deal with a situation that got you angry, confront the situation in a positive way. Now, I'm not saying confront it by causing more negativity to do anything that's going to harm or hurt anybody or hurt yourself, or to cause any type of disruption in somebody's life. But confronting the situation, meaning if it's something that you need to speak it over with somebody, or talk to somebody and let them know how you feel or how they made you feel, confront it and release that negative energy that's in you, so you can put it out there, get it out of you, and then you can move forward. And then secondly, you got to learn how to forgive. You got to learn how to forgive the situation. Because when you hold on to that anger and you're thinking about it constantly, and you don't know how to let it go, now it has you. You've allowed it to control you and conquer you. There was times in my life where I was so angry, like literally I would go to bed angry. I would go to bed miserable, angry, and just full of rage in my heart and in my mind of just feeling just like life is not going the way that I want it to go. On top of, just feeling just hurt by relationships not working out for me and just feeling rejected by the world. And a lot of times, and I will also admit, a lot of times when I was going through those phases and feeling those stages of anger and amidst feeling angry and bitter and feeling, which led to me feeling vindictive, I was labeling, now that I look back, I was labeling things wrong. But at the time when I was feeling that way, I felt like, okay, if you crossed me, if you did me wrong, you were unfair to me, you hurt my feelings for whatever reason, I automatically labeled it like you hurt me. You did me wrong. Okay. And not looking at all of it, looking at it from all aspects to just kind of say, okay, well, things do happen, and making an allowance for others' faults. So instead of me doing that, because at the time I was just working off of rage and anger. I pretty much just blocked out everything else. I blocked out the opportunity of, or the idea that I needed to be patient with others, making an allowance for their faults, because people are going to make mistakes. People are going to mess up. And I messed up. I'm sure I've did things to make people angry and things that I'm ashamed of that I look back on. But when I was going through it, I labeled it, and that's how I labeled it. If I labeled you that you did me wrong, or you hurt my feelings, or you crossed me, once I labeled that and I did that, I was the type of person like I was unwilling to forgive. You couldn't pay me to forgive you. And I even spoke hatred, because in my heart and in my mind, once I felt rejected, or like you hurt me, or you did me wrong, or because life just wasn't going the way that I was going, and I just labeled the world like I was angry with the world. Once I labeled it and I felt like that, I literally coming out of my mouth, speaking defile words out of my mouth, stated several times, like, if you cross me, you do me wrong, or I felt like, you treated me unfair. I don't care. I don't care. I don't forgive you, and I will die not forgiving you. That means if whoever die first, you or me, I'm not going to forgive you, and I could care less. I will go to my grave like that. And that was literally the words that I would speak. Not because I intentionally wanted to be that way, because again, being the person that I was, and just not understanding even just the word, and understanding that you got to work off of love. You got to be willing to make allowance for people's faults, and understanding that people are going to make mistakes and things are going to happen. Understand what you might have did in those situations that caused those certain things to happen. But again, you allowed it because so much sin was going on in your life. You weren't seeing your faults. You weren't seeing what you might have been doing wrong in certain situations. But then whenever it did happen to you, you just blew it out of proportion, and you labeled it how you wanted to label it. And that's what I was doing. When I did that, I would say out of my mouth, like I could care less if who died first, but I would go to my grave not forgiving you, meaning I was the type of person that once you crossed me, or I felt that type of way about you, or whatever happened in that situation, I was willing to take it to my grave, and meaning I don't give a darn if years pass by. If I see you again, or if the situation comes about, still holding on to it like it just happened yesterday. I was carrying that chip on my shoulder. Like it was literally, you probably could see the chips sitting there, because that's how much I was willing to hold on to it, because I felt like because whatever happened in the situation defeated me, I felt like the least I could do was be angry about it, and then hold on to the anger and store it up, so that way whenever or if the time would come for me to pay back or be vindictive, I would have been willing to do it. But then in all actuality, I still was never confronting the situations to put it aside, or to let it go, or to say, okay, well, I was wrong all this time, or maybe I was angry for no reason, or again, that could have been something that I could have forgave that person for. So I was storing it up for a time where it's like, okay, I don't give a darn if it was 10 years ago. You did me wrong. If I see you in 10 years, you better girl, you better boy, you better get out the way, because I'm still gonna be pissed as if it just happened. And that was just the type of person that I was. And I was just willing to be unforgiving and not knowing all this time because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that I was storing up anger for God. But I think I ain't got no choice but to say thank God for his patience with me, for his patience with my disobedience, for his patience with the anger and everything that I was holding and hoarding in. And being willing to say that, I don't give a darn. I don't forgive you and I could care less. And if I catch you 10 years later, you better hope I die first, because if I do, I'm still coming back for you. But never did actually do much about it. Again, I was storing it up. And in my mind, I was playing millions of scenarios of how I was going to handle things, how I was going to finish off that situation. So I was basically coming up with tons of scenarios on things. Because again, I'm naturally just a person that envisions things. I'm naturally a person that's always imagining, always just thinking ahead, always just I was living in my imagination. That's why I was dwelling. I'm a dreamer. Just dwell there. And because that was just something natural for me, just when it came to situations like this, real life situations, I didn't handle it. I handled it by what I knew best, which was just to envision or to visualize and come up with scenarios and playing things in my mind and playing it out, and then still holding on to the anger. Literally would go to sleep like that. Literally go to sleep crying, miserable, angry, hating my life. And I just didn't realize I just didn't know any better. Bottom line, I did not know what I was storing up in my body. I didn't know that that was the devil inside of me. I didn't know that was the spirit of the demon, the spirit of evil inside of me. I didn't realize that I didn't know any better. And so I just encourage you guys today, those who are dealing with that, if it's something that happened in your life and you're wondering, what should I do about it? Or if you're the type of person that you was willing to hold grudges, you're willing to keep that chip on your shoulder because you're like, no, this person did me wrong, when, and you're not looking at it like, okay, make allowance for others' faults. So I'm here to encourage you that it's not worth it to hold on to that. Don't allow that to conquer you and conquer your world. So you got to find those ways to release that. And again, I suggest, you got to be willing to forgive. You're going to have to. You're going to have to be willing to forgive. And like I said, I just thank God. I thank God for his patience with me. And I thank God for his discipline. Because if I didn't go through what I went through, what I ended up experiencing that anxiety every day, just living in immense fear of death, being scared every day, thinking every single day that I was going to die, just feeling that way, I probably would not have been willing to change, to allow the Lord to change the way that I think. And I know I'm still not perfect, but I know that I'm not where I was. I know that I'm more willing to forgive others. I'm willing to make allowance for other faults. I'm willing to hold myself accountable for the things that I've done. I'm willing to look at myself and evaluate what I might have done in that situation. I'm willing to say, well, you know what? I was wrong, so I might need to apologize. Again, just willing to hold myself accountable. And that's another thing you got to be willing to do, Christian friends. Be willing to hold yourself accountable in certain situations. So when you might have labeled things before, this and that, so that's why you behaved the way that you did, or you reacted the way that you did. And so now that's what you're holding on to, and you're storing that situation up for ammunition, right? To maybe utilize. You got to go now. You got to allow the Lord to change the way that you think. Ask the Lord to give you clarity in the situation. Pray to God, seek out to God to release all of that. And then now you can look back and relabel things and say, okay, well, maybe I didn't have to be so angry about that. Maybe that was something and it wasn't worth getting angry, because I shouldn't have probably been doing that anyway to begin with. I shouldn't have got myself or been in that type of situation anyway. I used to hold on to so much anger and bitterness from bad failed relationships that I was in. And I'm the person that was allowing it to happen to myself. In a relationship for 10 miserable years. And instead of letting it go, I was still in it, right? Holding on by a string, but allowing it to keep me angry and miserable. And I turned into just this bitter person. That just, and instead of me turning to God because I knew I was living in sin and ashamed of the way I was living. I didn't pray to God. I had refused to pray to God and ask him for help. So I was almost just willing to be miserable and almost, I guess, die like that instead of turning to God and coming to God for help, seeking God to let that go, willing to forgive. And I wasn't living like that. I was willing to hold on to the rage and the anger because that's what I labeled it, that you did me wrong. You crossed me. You were unfair to me. I was rejected by the world. The world is not accepting me. Why am I not getting what I want? So all of that just was surrounding my life, and it was inside of me, and it came out in the form of, again, just being bitter, angry, full of rage. And I dealt with anxiety for some years, and I still go through it, but I'm in a much better place now. But when I went through it, when I first started experiencing that and experiencing the physical symptoms of how anxiety was running through my body, I didn't know what was happening to me. And I felt I came tumbling down off of that cloud I was on because, again, I was just always in my thoughts, always in my head. That's why I lived in my head. And when I finally came tumbling off that cloud and was in reality, I was straight scared about life. I almost had to relearn how to live again. I almost had to learn how to deal with people and just go through life. And here I am, a grown woman living on my own, taking care of my girls. And I had to learn how to live life again. But don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I was out there just treating people all kind of ways, because again, that was one thing that I hated. I hated when I felt like I was being treated wrong or unfair, or you crossed me or you did me all kind of ways. So once I labeled you about that, I X'd you out for the rest of your life and the rest of mine. And that's how I was feeling. And so again, when that happened, I just didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't realize what I was storing up for myself. I didn't realize I was storing up the day of me being disciplined by God. And I thank God for discipline. I thank God that he disciplined me and changed my heart. Because I mean, just think, if I just allowed that anger to continue to control me, just imagine you going to sleep like that and falling asleep with so much anger and bitterness and rage on your heart. And just imagine that was your last night to breathe. Is that how you want to go out? Is that how you want your last breath to be, just full of anger and rage and trying to figure out what you're going to do to that person or this person the next day? But not even knowing that could be your last day, and you literally went to sleep crying, miserable, with anger on your spirit, not knowing how to release it. And for many years, that's how I went to bed. I laid down with anger and rage and bitterness on my heart, to where I just look back and sometimes I have to cry saying, Lord, I don't know how my mentality came to such, that I was willing to I allowed that to control me and conquer my world. That literally I guess I was willing to die angry and not knowing if I would even make it the next day, but go to sleep like that. So you got to understand the power of anger. And think about those situations when you were angry. What were you willing to do? You were willing to sin. Right? You was willing to pay back. You was willing to retort. You was willing to get revenge. You was willing to be vindictive. So anger, yes, anger is an emotion that will allow reactions or allow a turnout that is never going to be a positive turnout. But honestly, obviously, I was willing to allow that to happen to me in my life by being such an angry person. And like I said, like I meant to say, it's not like I was out there, living in anger and treating people wrong at the same time. No, because I hated it when it happened to me. But I was one of those high functioning, angry persons. If that makes sense to you. If you ever heard of people like who are high functioning addicts, I was a high functioning angry person, meaning I still was functioning, living life, still smiling, still trying to do whatever it is I needed to do, still trying to pursue my goals and my dreams, still just trying to live. But deep down inside, I was just an angry, bitter, full of rage person. But I still was functioning well. The average person wouldn't have known that I was just angry because I still had a smile on my face. I still was me. I still tried to treat people fair, like the ones who I felt like you didn't do me wrong. If you ain't had nothing to do with why I'm angry, or you wouldn't, I ain't gonna treat you all kind of ways now. Because again, I hate it if I was treated unfair. So why would I do somebody else like that? But for those who did cross me, or the ones that I did label that you did me wrong, you hurt me, the world rejected me. Oh. Or you couldn't have stand a chance in my aura. You couldn't have stood a chance in my proximity, because I would have, if looks and brains and heart could kill, I would have been willing to do it. And so I just encourage you, Christian friends, that, you don't want to let anger be one of the emotions that conquer your day. Because again, we're all on borrowed time. Okay, let's start there. If I wanted to just encourage you all on why, we got to release that. Again, the Lord endowed us, and the Lord gave us this time. He's allotting us whatever time we do have. So he's the one that has the decisions on our life, right? The Lord, he directs your steps. So he's the one that has the say so of our lives. So we don't know what our timing is going to be. We don't know the day nor the hour. So we got to understand that because we're on that borrowed time, how do you want to spend your days? How do you want to spend your nights? So I encourage you that don't go to sleep. Don't allow anger to conquer your day, where you literally are willing to go to bed with so much anger and rage on your heart. And to the point where you could care less if that'll be your last moment breathing. Is that how you want to go out? So I encourage you to pray it out. Ask the Lord to give you the fruits of the Spirit, to give you a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind, to give you the spirit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Let that conquer you, and act off of love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no record of being wronged. And that's what I was doing. I was holding on to the wrong. I was holding on to my grudges. If you did me wrong, I was holding on to it. I will hold on to it. I'm going to hold on to it. And I was going to keep on doing it. Because that was my motto. You wronged me. That was your last chance. And there's no forgiving here. So regardless if I physically did anything back to you, in my mind, if I already crossed you out and I already stated in my heart and my mind that there's no forgiveness over here, then that was my way of getting you back. Because it was just like, once that forgiveness was crossed out for you and I felt like I could care less about forgiving you, that meant years to come, while you thinking the situation over, I'm still sitting here holding on to it. And I was willing to be that way, and I was wrong. So I encourage you, Christian friends, to learn how to let that go. Don't let that anger control you. Forgiveness, like it is said, forgiveness is not for even for the other person, but it's even for yourself. And then forgive yourself for allowing that situation to conquer you like that. But you want to be able to let it go. So you got to pray it out. You got to be, and if you got to confront the situation in a positive manner to release whatever it is that you got to say or get off your chest about whatever did make you feel the way that you feel, then you got to be willing to let it go. You got to be willing to confront the situation need be, and then you got to be willing to forgive it and release it and let it go. Put it behind you and say, you know what? This situation is not going to conquer me. Don't allow the sun to go down while you are still angry. And so with that said, I wanted to come from the book of Ephesians. All right, the book of Ephesians chapter 4. And where it says here, it basically says, I'll start from chapter 26. All right, so Ephesians 4, chapter 26. It says, don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. All right, so I'm going to stop there really quick. because I can attest to that. Okay. Again, when I used to go to sleep angry and feeling rage and just having that bitter, vindictive spirit in me, that gave the devil an opportunity to say, oh, I got you. I know exactly what I can do to cause you to sin and to bring you closer to me. So you angry about something, right? And if you're not the type of person that's willing to let it go and to say, you know what, this did happen, but you know what, I'm willing to let it go because that's not going to control me. Oh, that allows the devil a chance to two-step all around you. He ready to do the Cupid shuffle, knowing that you're angry, because that gives him a chance to take a hold of you and give him a reason to reel you in and cause you to sin. So again, don't let the sun go down while you're angry. And I agree with that. Don't go to sleep angry. So I don't know what your time zone is, but whenever that sun is setting, wherever you're at, be willing to already have that anger released out of your spirit. Be willing to already let it go, put it behind you, forgive, or confront the situation and let it go. So when it's time for you to get ready to lay down in that bed, you conquer that emotion that you went through and say, you know what, even though, yes, it did make me angry, because I'm not saying that you're not going to get angry, because things happen, it's inevitable, but you have to control and conquer it. So don't allow yourself to go to bed and be willing to go to sleep angry like that, not knowing if that's going to be your last night. Is that how you want your last night of life to be? So you got to be willing to conquer it and let it go. Don't give the devil, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. So don't get on the devil's team by being angry. And it causes you to sin, causes you to do some things out of your anger. Don't give the devil joy because he know that you angry and you don't want to let it go. Oh yeah, now you on his team. You playing spades with him at the table and the devil is your partner. And y'all around here smacking the ace card down and all of that because, you know, he knows that you're angry. So that's giving him a playground. That's giving him something to do. So let's, at least if you want to try to conquer and show the devil, because the Lord, like the Lord said, through the Spirit of God, the Lord gives you the authority through Christ Jesus over Satan. So use that authority. So these are ways that you can use your authority over Satan. So when it's times when you're getting angry, be willing to forgive, be willing to let it go, confront the situation in a positive way, and then release it and let it go. Pray about it. Pray for the fruits of the Spirit. All right. Then I want to also come from the book of James, chapter 22. So James chapter 22, where it says, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you are only fooling yourselves. Oh goodness, where am I at? Oh, sorry. Chapter 19. So understand this, dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So get rid of all filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. So just like it says, you got to be quick to listen. So in those situations where, again, anger is going to arise, because, again, sometimes you can't control that emotion of getting angry, because you can't control what happened to cause you to get angry. But whenever those situations do arise, because you know when something is making you mad, you know when something is causing you to feel uncomfortable or cause you to start to feel some kind of way that you're not liking. So when those situations do arise, be quick to listen and slow to speak. So listen, pay attention to what the situation is that's going on. Listen to it. And then maybe you might can discern better. So you need to ask for discernment too and wisdom. So you can discern what's happening. So that way you can conquer and have some authority over the situation. By saying, okay, well, what the person is saying is really not even worth getting angry about that. What they're saying is really not as bad as I think that it was. Or, okay, it's just not worth me allowing it to control me to get me angry. So be quick to listen, slow to speak. For those even like myself, I was always defensive, right? Because again, I was a very sensitive person. So if you hurt my feelings or you said, I was just always living on a defensive end. And a lot of that came from just going through life feeling rejected because, life just didn't go the way I wanted it to go, right? Because again, I didn't understand, and that's because I wasn't drawing near to God. So I didn't understand that many are the plans of a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. Or I didn't understand that there's no wisdom, no insight, no plan that could succeed against the Lord. And I didn't understand that if a person's steps are directed by God, how are you going to understand your own way? And so because I didn't understand that, that you got to learn to surrender. Don't succumb to that anger and what it's going to do to you. So you got to be willing to let it go and release it and put it behind you and make allowance for people's faults so that you can move forward, because know that things are going to happen. You're going to even make mistakes that might make somebody angry or mad, but you got to be willing to have authority over that. So everybody, you must be quick to listen, slow to speak. Stop being so quick to be on the defensive side. Like how I was so quick to because I thought this what you might have was wanting to say to me, or I thought this was what you did to do me wrong, or I just assumed because it just didn't look right. I was so quick to just have scenarios in my head about people and things that I just labeled it all wrong. And I was so quick to assume. So the minute just whatever might have happened in a conversation, I immediately was just defensive. Especially if it just wasn't something that I wanted to hear. If it was something that just was a conversation that I just wasn't ready for what you was about to say, you threw me off guard, or you said something that I just wasn't ready for. It was uncomfortable. It kind of hurt my feelings. I was just so quick to be defensive and so quick to speak and lash back. Okay? So you got to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. All right? Because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. God desires you to forgive others. God desires you to make allowance for others' faults, because people are going to mess up, and so are you. You messed up. You made your parents angry all the time. Okay? And I know if you can relate to me when you was out there doing what you was doing, living how you was living or whatever, I'm sure you know by now you made your parents mad and angry at times with you. But your parents had to make allowance for your faults. There's other things you might have did in life where you might have made others angry, and they got to make allowance for your faults. So you got to be willing to do that. And so again, it doesn't produce the righteousness that God desires. So he desires for you to forgive. He desires you to act off of love. Love others, really love others. Love your neighbors as yourself. And what that looks like, again, if somebody wronged you, you got to be willing to forgive, make allowance for their faults. You got to be willing to be patient, right? And when I talked about patience, right, that means you got to be willing to understand that people are going to mess up and make mistakes. Everybody is not on the same timeline of maturity as you. So while somebody in your life, for people you might be dealing with anger, you're angry because your relationship, your marriage or whatever, your spouse or your relationship you're in is just not going how you wanted to go, and you've been dealing with it for years. You don't know how to get out of it, or you're in it, but it's just not in a good season in your relationship. So you're just angry, right? You angry, you full of rage, you argue all the time. But you got to make allowance for that person's faults. Now, considering, let's understand too, like you don't want to be disrespected or being treated wrong or cheated or nothing like that. But I'm just saying, when just simple life things that does happen, that's bound to happen, you got to be willing to make allowance for those person's faults. And understand that everybody might not be on the same level of maturity level as you. So you got to understand the way you might know things, somebody else may not know it right now. Or you might be like how I was. I just didn't know. I didn't get it. And at that time, I didn't know any better. I was ignorant, insolent, and not purposefully. But it just, I didn't know any better. I didn't know the sin that I was holding in. I didn't know that holding in anger was bad for your spirit, that it was the spirit of the devil. I didn't even know that. I didn't look at it like that because I was just working off of so much rage and anger. So you got to understand now, have that patience with people. So for you, those of you who might be dealing with something on your job or a situation on your job where you're angry, you're feeling rage and you're bitter about your job situation. You're not in the career that you want to be in. So you're just walking through life just mad, angry. Well, change the way that you think. You may look at it like maybe it's not happening for you right now because it's not your season. Or maybe it's not happening because God might be trying to detour you from something. Or maybe you need to include God more in your life and seek God and submit to God. And then he will, or delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. So you might need to, again, evaluate what you're doing. So it could be several reasons why you're going through what you're going through. Or, be willing again to hold yourself accountable for that sinful situation that you put yourself in that you shouldn't have been in anyway. So now this is why you went through what you went through. I can look back now and say I have to truly forgive the relationships that I've been in because I allowed some silly things to happen, some sinful things of me being sinful and me just living to please the world and living for myself instead of living for God and carefully determining what pleases the Lord. I wasn't living like that and I wasn't thinking like that. So quite naturally, I was going to go through some BS. But when I went through it, I didn't know how to deal with it, and I held it all in, and I just became this angry, bitter, vindictive woman. But am I not? I have to be thankful to God for his discipline, for his patience with me, to allow me to change the way that I think, to allow me a chance to see where I once was, to know that I don't want to go back to that, to know that I have to make allowance for other faults, to know that I have to have a spirit of forgiving, or to forgive and have compassion and be patient with others. And that if something else does make me angry, because things like that will happen, don't let that anger make me sin. And don't allow the sun to go down while I'm angry. So it's times when I'm still going to be very upset about things or feel angry. But I bet you now, before I go to bed, I'm going to find a way to release that thing. I bet you before the sun get ready to set, when it look like it's coming on down and starting to get dark, whatever it is I was angry about, I'm praying it out. I'm talking to God to say, Lord. And again, when you are talking to the Lord, tell him how you're feeling. Tell him exactly what you're going through. Don't cover it up or be general about the situation. No, specifically tell the Lord what you're feeling. So if you're angry, say, Lord, I'm angry. Lord, I'm angry right now. What I just went through with my husband, or what I went through with my wife, what I went through with my girlfriend, my boyfriend, what I went through on my job, what I went through with my children, what I'm going through with just not getting what I want. Lord, I'm just angry right now. Lord, I'm jealous right now. Lord, I'm bitter right now. Lord, I just feel rage in my heart. Lord, I don't want to do this no more. Specifically say it so the Lord can work on those emotions. Because again, it's the emotions that drives and dictates your behaviors and your actions. So that's what needs to be worked on. So that's what you need when you're praying to God. Tell him exactly what you're going through. And you got to filter, fight, and focus. You got to filter all of that out. Filter that rage up out of you. Filter that bitterness up out of you. Filter that spirit of being vindictive up out of you. Filter that hate and that jealousy and that envy up out of you. And it's going to take prayer. And again, it ain't going to happen overnight, but you got to be willing to pray it out and let the Lord work in you. Allow the Lord to change the way that you think. Be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And allowing the Lord to change your thoughts. So now that you've washed off and you've thrown off your old self, and now you are put on your new self. So now you're made anew in the spirit. So now the Lord is changing your thoughts in the way that you're thinking. So now you can, when situations do happen, you can handle it better. You can kind of brush off some things better. You are willing to confront the situation without allowing it to hold and storing it in, saving it up, and then trying to, and then it blows like a cork because you held it in for so long. So that's what I just wanted to encourage you with, Christian friends, about this whole anger thing, because again, it happens in life. It does happen. And so if you are the type of person that you're still holding on to some things that happened in the past that you're still angry about, hurt about, rejected about, mad about, bitter about, vindictive about, jealous about, be willing to pray it out and let it go and release it. Let it go. and talk to God. Tell God exactly what the emotion is that you're feeling. So if you're feeling that spirit of jealousy, say, Lord, I'm jealous right now because I did want this certain thing and I don't have it yet, but I see other people having it. And Lord, I don't know what to do. I've been trying everything and why nothing is working for me. So Lord, I'm jealous. And pray and talk about that. Talk about that spirit of jealousy. Lord, I'm angry right now because the way this person just did me, ooh. So Lord, I'm angry and I'm about ready to do some things to this person. So Lord, I need you, Lord. I'm angry. All right. So that's what I wanted to encourage you guys about. And I want to thank you all again for tuning in with me. You can always review my other past pop-ups, where I'm just popping on and I'm giving a word to encourage. And I hope that what I speak is pure, right, and true. I hope that what I speak is able to encourage. And again, it's actually to encourage myself as well, because I need this word as well. I'm always asking the Lord to minister to my spirit. And minister to my spirit and bless my tongue, touch my tongue, that it speaks boldly and speak what is pure, right, and true. So I just pray that it does encourage you. All right. So I do want to thank you all for tuning in. It is warm up in here where I'm at. So I thank you all for tuning in. Again, you can always check my other Bible studies. You can go over to my YouTube page, Godly Models TV. There, all of my Bible studies, even my Bible studies with my girls, are on there. So if you want to sit down as a family and just listen in or tune into some Bible studies that I have with my girls to kind of show them some things and teach them the word, you can join in on those Bible studies. I got some other videos there that can kind of actually show you the other side of me, of what I love and I enjoy doing, editing videos. And I got some a few of my projects on there where me and my family, we've done some plays, where we did our rendition of some classic films. So you get to see some of the things that I've done. So again, I just want to thank y'all for tuning in. And I'm actually considering I'm going to probably just take a break from social media. Nothing is wrong, but I just kind of want to give even more attention to God. I also want to just go about this thing where, because we all know how social media can be. Social media definitely can be a benefit. Social media definitely has its pros and it has its good side of it. But then we also know the other flip side of social media, where again, sometimes it can be discouraging. Sometimes you come on social media and people posting all kind of stuff, all kind of garbage, all kind of things that comes into your eye gates and your ear gates that you don't even recognize that social media is doing, because you spend so much time into it. You're in tunnel vision. So with that said, I just want to take a little time away from social media and just kind of give a little more attention to God, a little more attention to my journey, what I'm doing, because I am not social media. Social media doesn't make me and make my path and my journey. Like I said, it does have its benefits. I can say I am proud of the moments of me scrolling on social media and I'm seeing positive, encouraging things and seeing things that does motivate me. So it has its perks. But then on that flip side, we all know what social media can also do. So, and I encourage y'all to do that too. Take a moment to abstain from social media. Take that moment to just kind of get away from it and step away from it and then do other things. Focus on what needs to be focused on. Starving your distractions and feeding your focus. And so if we know that some of us know that social media is a distraction in a way, be willing to let it go for a second. And then come back later. But so I think I'm going to, take a little break. Like I said, it won't be long. And Lord willing, I'll come back and I'll be able to share some exciting things, because I do got some exciting things, Lord willing, that is actually coming up. So again, when it is time to come back on, I'll be able to share what I did while I had this break. I'm so excited about it, for this opportunity for Christian Adorn to get out there and be exposed in other places. So I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I'm just praying the Lord blessings over it. So again, Lord willing, when I come back on, I'll be able to share all the things that I was able to do while I was away from social media. But meanwhile, I still plan to want to post videos and post on my my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see some of my Bible study pop-ups and all of those things. I'll still continue to post that on my YouTube channel for you to go over there to see. So again, you can go on Godly Models TV to check out the other videos and other things that I'll post. All right, everybody. Again, thanks for tuning in. All right, guys. Take it easy.